My name is Shyann, and I have 3 kids. A little backstory about my life. I grew up in this area, got married, and moved to Florida in 2002. I moved back here in 2011. We started an auto detailing business, and in 2016, we bought the car wash and laundromat. We weren't really looking for anything at the time, but it kind of fell into our laps, so we thought, why not? And in the summer of 2018, my husband at the time moved out, and that is where I feel like God dumped me out of a helicopter in the middle of a jungle, in the middle of a deserted island. I really have no other way to explain it or describe it. I share all of that because I am blown away at the provisions that God made for me and the kids. He knew what was going to happen in my life, and He provided the car wash, and He provided the house and everything so that we would be okay. I really struggled to find the words to describe my life after that, and there's so much I could share, and maybe I'll share a little bit more sometime. But most definitely this was most definitely the hardest season of my life. There were 2 things that I would cling to from the beginning. Number 1, I was determined to heal. I knew that what I was going through was extremely traumatic, but I also knew that God promised healing. Number 2, I knew that God had big things in store for me. I didn't know what those were, but I knew that my story wasn't over. And I kept hearing those things throughout this time, and it is part of what kept me going. God also provided amazing friends for me through this journey. God used them to encourage me on a daily basis. I remember my attorney telling me that the whole divorce process could take up to 2 years, and I thought, there's no way, I will never survive this for 2 years. Well, the process actually ended up taking 2.5 years. There were days that I felt like I couldn't even breathe. There were days that the dishes and the laundry were too much. There were times that I didn't do the dishes for 3 days just because it was too overwhelming. It was just too much for me to do. I lived in limbo for 2.5 years, not knowing what was going to happen to the car wash or the house or even my kids. But during this process, I learned so much about myself, about life, about God. And because of that, I wouldn't change anything. I would walk this path all over again to not be where I was. It was not a healthy place, not just in my marriage, but me as a person, physically and spiritually. There are so many God stories I could share. I just wanted to encourage you that God cares about the little things. So many times I felt so overwhelmed with my responsibilities, and because they were pulling me in 10 different places at once. I have the house, the car wash, you have to make food and laundry and dishes and doctor appointments, and if I don't change the water filter, ain't nobody gonna change it. And if I don't put salt in the softener, ain't nobody gonna do that. And so sometimes it was just really overwhelming. And the one time I went out to feed my animals, and I walked into the barn and I saw mice scatter everywhere, and I just thought, oh great, one more thing I gotta deal with. About a week later, Miranda went to do the chores, and she comes running out of the barn screaming because a cat was in there and completely scared her. That cat actually stuck around for a while, and I didn't think about it right away, but God provided a cat for my mice, and it just overwhelmed me that God would care about those little details. He knew how I was feeling, and He knew that He knew my needs. He provided my needs. One of the things that I really struggled with the last 2 years was just my purpose in life, and what is it? I'm almost 40 years old. I feel like I'm starting over again, and this is not what I was picturing my life to be, and it's not what I wanted. I started thinking about what I should do after the divorce was final. Do I get another job? Do I maybe start catering, or what does God have for me? I felt so lost. I felt like I was wandering through the wilderness. So my lifelong dream was always to have my own cafe. And I remember when I was 15, I tried to get myself to like coffee because I didn't like it at the time, and I always said that if I was going to have a coffee house, I need to like coffee. And so I know that dream went way back then. I don't remember how much further back it went, but I found myself thinking about that more and more as time went on, and I would just continue to push it away because I'm like, it's too much for me right now. I have a lot on my plate, and I don't have the money for that anyway. Fast forward to December 4th. December 4th was my last court hearing for the divorce. The divorce was not final till February, but December 4th was the last court hearing. The day after, I was approached by an investor, and the exact words that I heard was, if you have any other business ideas, and if you ever want a silent partner, let me know. And I was like, excuse me, what did you just say? I was like, I always have business ideas, and I'm like, are you serious? So we talked a little bit about it, and I threw out a couple ideas, and then the whole cafe thing came up, and I started sharing how that was like my lifelong dream. And I said, as a matter of fact, there's this restaurant for sale about 10 minutes from my house. And I said, the kids have been after me all summer about maybe buying that and putting in my cafe there. And the investor just said, well, you need to go look at it. And so that was a Saturday. On Monday, I went and looked at it, and that was when God opened this whole new chapter of my life. And it was so clear as day that God closed one chapter and opened another. I mean, the very next day. I fought God for a while on it because I said, I know, God, I know your timing is always supposed to be perfect, but it's wrong this time. I mean, because you're talking COVID, there's Biden is coming in, taxes are going up. I said, there's restaurants shutting down everywhere. Like, I am losing my mind. America is crazy right now, and I'm crazy for even thinking about this. But I actually called my brother Keith, and I knew that he was pretty much the only person in the world that wouldn't think I'm losing my mind. So he actually really, really encouraged me to walk through these doors that God opened. He said, maybe walk through one, and if the next one's open, walk through that one, and if the next one's shut, then so be it. But he said, at this point, the only reason why I wouldn't do this is because of fear. And he said, the Bible strongly commands us not to live in fear. And so I am planning to open my cafe sometime in May. It's been a crazy journey. I have faced a ton of spiritual warfare. I often feel unworthy, unqualified, like I don't have what it takes. But God has time and time again showed me through different ways that this is what He has for me. I asked the kids what we should name it, and Miranda right away said Blue Moon Cafe. I actually Googled Blue Moon, and Blue Moon is a rare moon that doesn't happen very often, and the saying, every once in a blue moon, came to my mind, and I said, well, that's it. That's what it's got to be. Blue Moon Bistro represents my second chance in life, and it's because every once in a blue moon you get a chance at living your dream, and if you get that chance, you should take it. I don't know what God has in store for Blue Moon. I know that I could fall flat on my face, and I'm okay with that, actually. I know it's crazy. I know it's big. It may not be big for you or even the community, but it's big for me. And I know that this is the big thing that God was talking about in the beginning. Without God, I'm nothing. He is the one that gave me the strength, and He is the one that provided all my needs. If it would have been up to me, I would have laid down and died. I feel like I have so much inside of me, so many God stories that I don't have adequate words for. It's like that old hymn that we sing often that talks about the ocean being ink and the sky being paper. And even if that's how much we had, like if I had that much ink and that much paper, I feel like I still wouldn't have enough words to describe what God has done for me and for my kids and for my life, and just like as long as we are in this world, we will experience pain, but pain is only a season. It's not a destination. You can choose to live there if you want, but God promises us healing if we choose to accept it. I know what it's like to feel like you're bleeding to death on the inside. You know, when you break an ankle or you or you cut yourself or something, you're bleeding, you go to the ER, you go get help. But when you're bleeding to death on the inside, there is no ER for that. And I know what that's like. I know it can be overwhelming. I know that it can feel so hopeless and feel like you're all alone. You're not alone. God is there, and there are people that understand and know what you're going through. My name is Shyann, and I know for a fact that God is still writing my story.